For standard bombs, it's pretty easy. Just line up your CCRP across your target and then hit your drop bomb keybind. For dumb bombs, it's going to be very, very similar, except your CCRP is going to be set a little bit further back, so it'll be a little bit harder to see your target. But do the same thing, line up your CCRP, and then drop when it is over the target. For JDAMs, they're going to be a little bit more complicated, but not too bad. What you're going to do is set your sight stabilization, and then you'll drop the bomb. At most any distance, it is a little bit better if you have your CCRP over the sight stabilization square. But the reason you do this with the sight stabilization is these bombs are gnss guided or GPS guided, which means wherever the sight stabilization was when you release the bomb is where the bomb will hit. If released correctly. If you release it improperly, then it's not guaranteed to hit there. Then if you release and the CCRP isn't even remotely close, then you're not going to hit the target 100% of the time. As long as your sight stabilization is on the target and your CCRP goes over the target, you will hit. Next up is going to be GBU-39s, which are a very, very small glide bomb. For these, it's the same thing as the JDAMs, except you don't have to worry about the CCRP as much because these do fly quite a long ways. All you're doing is hovering over the targets and then hitting your drop bomb key. As soon as you're over the target, you're wanting to destroy. Next up, we have our GBU-12s. These will be laser guided bombs. I do also have another video about some of these. If you guys want to check that out, you can check it out here. But for laser guided bombs, we're going to be using our sight stabilization, and also our laser designator. Once you have your target picked out, you will set your sight stabilization on said target, turn on your laser designator, and then drop the bomb once the CCRP has crossed over the target. And just a side note, the laser designator does usually turn on automatically, as you can see there. What this does allow with laser designators like this is it does make it so you can shift your target point a little bit after you've already dropped the bomb. It does have to be very close by though, because if you're trying to shift it too far away, it will not hit the target. Next up, we have AGM 62 ERs or AGM 62A walleyes. These are essentially TV guided bombs with some arrow fins and everything. But for these, you're going to use your weapon lock air to ground keybind. I'll show you what mine are. You're going to use weapon lock air to ground, and then you're going to use your drop bomb key after it is locked. So again, you will use sight stabilization to find a target. Weapon lock air to ground. Once the square shows up, then you can drop the bomb. Next up are Spice 2000s. These work essentially the exact same as the AGM 62 walleyes. And another note for these is you can use them in first person or third person. Either way works. They're both about the same. It just depends on whatever preference you have. Next up, we have our AGM 65Ds. These are definitely a choice loadout weapon for a lot of people. For these, you're going to use your weapon lock air to ground. And I do want to mention that you don't always have to use weapon lock air to ground. You can also use the just fire air to ground missile key, but if you lock like randomly on the ground and you're trying to unlock it, you need to have weapon lock air to ground bound. That's just my 2 cents on that. So weapon lock air to ground, hover over the target, sight stabilization, and then you're going to weapon lock air to ground, and then fire air to ground missile. And we'll show you again, you can do these in third person as well. You do not have to worry about CCRP. CCRP here is just from a different ordnance I'm also carrying on the aircraft at the time. Next up, we have KH-38 MTs. These are very similar to the AGM-65Ds, but they are a little bit quicker. The Seeker does lock on quite fast. So same thing, weapon lock, air to ground, and then you're going to just fire air to ground missile. Next up is the KH-38 MLs. This is a very unconventional way to use these, but I'll show you two different ways to use them. This way, if you guys have ever watched Loner 512 at all, you'll know exactly what I'm about to do. To do this, it's more of like an orbital strike option. And to do so, you need to mark a site stabilization point on the map, and then you can take off from the runway and you launch directly off the runway to wherever your site stabilization was. The reason being that you can do this is these missiles are supposed to be laser and gnss guided. Now, I think they may have patched this, because I did notice that when it broke a Seeker lock, they just completely went AWOL, and you guys will be able to see that here in a second. Once that Seeker locks break, watch the two missiles that just completely veer off. So two missiles still hit, but two completely veered off. These missiles are supposed to be laser and gnss guided, but then this is just a little bit more close range laser guided action. So site stabilization, and then launch air to ground missile, adjust site point as needed. And same from here. You can turn the laser designator on and off, but there's not really any point to, and I'm not actually totally sure if you can turn it off when you actually have a missile out. You do have to guide these in the whole way, unlike their KH-38 MT counterpart. Next up is the KH-25ML. It is a very similar idea to the KH-38 ML. Same idea, slightly different missile, but you do have a targeting square as well. So same idea, site stabilization, laser designator, line it up within the targeting square, and then launch air to ground missile. And then you can adjust your aim point as needed. Next up, we have some slightly bigger air-to-ground missiles. This is the AGM 138-12. These you actually lock on very similar to the AGM 65Ds, and then you also launch with the same keybind. So it's a launch air-to-ground missile keybind. And so you will lock onto a target. Once you achieve a lock, fire air-to-ground missile, and watch it fly. This is the same idea. This is just with the Russian Su-30 M2 AMV, or sorry, Su-30 Mk2 AMV. Same idea, just lock the missile and then fire air-to-ground missile. You do not need site stabilization or anything for these. This is just purely to just lock and launch. One thing too is you can use site stabilization if you want to. It's not incredibly beneficial in this. Next up, we have the vikyr missiles, the 9K-127 vikyrs, found on the Su-39 and Su-25T. These missiles are very unique to both these planes, but the way to use them is site stabilization, fire air-to-ground missile, and then just guide it in as necessary. These missiles are very fast and also very maneuverable. Another thing to note is you do have to be within the launch zone there to be able to actually fire the missile. If you're not within the launch zone, you will not be able to.